song. Clayton joined. Good morning, Clayton. How are you? All right. One-way street, can I make a left on a red? Nadeem wants to know, and I will answer that question as soon as we get through the good mornings. And Andre says, good morning from Vietnam, or is it good morning Vietnam? Either way, good morning to you. We are now streaming everywhere. Phenomenal. That's amazing. My name is Sean Shapiro. I'm a police constable with the Toronto Police Service, and what you are watching is Ask a Traffic Cop. It is a 1 hour show, usually 1 hour. Sometimes we've gone as long as 2 hours. But yesterday was an hour and a half because we were on the air with Jerry Agar of News Talk 1010. And what we are here to do is answer your traffic and police questions. So if you've got questions, we've got answers. And more answers than usual on some days. And today might be that day. We'll see how it goes. Your mileage may vary. In any case, what do we need to talk about today? Well, we need to talk about first how you can ask questions. If you're on Instagram, you can ask us by using the question mark in the bubble. That's the Q&A functionality. Some functionality exists in TikTok, which is, of course, the place to be. It's the largest platform in the world as far as we're concerned. It's where the majority of our followers are. We are at nearly 600,000. We're 598,000 followers on TikTok. You could be one of them. All you have to do is hit follow, and you are part of the team. We are also broadcasting. We have 3 cameras going. The third camera is broadcasting on YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, Facebook, and, of course, Twitter. Now, everything but Twitter allows you to ask us questions. Twitter, however, I apologize in advance. You are out in the cold. You're on that platform that currently doesn't work very well. It is something you can change, though, not on Twitter. You can just jump onto one of the platforms that allows you to talk to us, and then we will, of course, happily respond to your questions. So that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to look at some questions right after we pay the bills. And I make that joke, which is really not a very good one. But anyway, paying the bills is usually advertising. Instead, I'm going to tell you about Vision Zero Enforcement Team. That is the group of officers who go out to different areas of the city every day trying to make the roads safer for everyone. They do it by laying charges, by giving tickets, no hugs, just tickets, and doing it looking specifically for certain offenses. They're looking for speeders, aggressive drivers, distracted drivers, and of course impaired drivers, because we know that those big four, those offense group, they lead to serious injury and death on our road. And Vision Zero acknowledges that minor collisions are going to happen. They're almost inevitable. They're going to happen. We don't want them to, and they are avoidable, but they happen. But the ones that lead to serious injury and death are unacceptable and preventable. So that's it. We're dealing with the enforcement side of things. I'm dealing with the education side of things, and we all need to take responsibility for our shared resource, being the road. It's a community. Share it. Be nice. Be kind. Slow down. That sort of stuff. Where are those magical officers today? Well, I'm glad you asked. They are in 13 Division. They're in 55 Division, and that means very little to many people. Divisions are just the name of the station, and there's a geographic, space on a map that identifies which officers generally respond to calls. But does that mean anything to you? I didn't think so. What it does mean is that, or what does mean something to some other people, is more recognizable are the communities, the neighborhoods: Yorkdale, Glen Park, Briar Hill, Witchwood, Oakwood, Vaughan, the beaches, Riverdale, Danforth, East York. Those are neighborhoods with real people, and they want to be safe. And they deserve to be safe. So let's all make them safe and avoid tickets, because when you break the rules, you get tickets. Ticket. Good morning, Jacob, who got a 98 on his astronomy assignment. I didn't realize that astronomy, I guess it would be a course. I've never taken astronomy. Sarge, have you taken astronomy?
Never, but the stars do interest me, definitely. I think there's much more out there beyond what we see, that's for sure.
I have looked at, photos of telescopes in I think it was a Sears catalog. But anyway, being up since 4 a.m. Well, that's a long one. Kayla says, greetings and salutations. And I share those with everyone because he shares them with everybody. And I appreciate the input. We have a lot of people who jump in every day, who join us. And thank you for being a regular viewer, listener, participant. This is a show for you. I just happen to answer questions. And Sergeant Kulik is here to jump on that the show train and answer questions too. So if you have questions for the Sarge, let me know. You can say Sarge and preface the question with directing it there. And between us, we'll definitely have an answer.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. I've had at least one coffee. I am good to go. We have a question that I said. On a one-way street, can I make a left turn on a red? If you're turning left onto another one-way street and there's no sign preventing it or not allowing it, then yeah, if it's safe to do so. A lot of people don't seem to understand that you have to come to a stop before you make a turn on a red light. That right turn on red, a lot of questions been saying, basically, how come I got a red light camera ticket? And I asked the question of, did you come to a complete stop before making your right turn on the red? And the answer is no. And then I question how they got their license, because that has always been the case. And that does identify some issues in the process if people are getting their license and don't know that you have to come to a stop.
For sure.
Yes. Can a regular police pull you over on the highway? I don't know what a regular
What's
police
a regular
is.
police?
I was going to say, all of us are pretty weird. It's none of us are regular. No, the answer is that if you're in the province of Ontario, and I can't speak for other provinces, but I assume it's going to be the same, we are police officers sworn in as police officers anywhere in the province. We have the police authority wherever we go within the province, but we're generally not dealing with other people's areas.
Generally, the highways are Ontario Provincial Police.
Yeah.
But it's not to say, we haven't been behind you and you've done an offense in the city of Toronto and then you've exited onto the highway and for whatever reason we make the vehicle stop there. So, or we're on the highway traveling to a certain destination and we see an infraction, and then of course we can still pull you over as municipal police services on the highway, much like the Ontario Provincial Police can also do the same within municipalities.
It's one of those things where don't break the law and it won't matter who's pulling you over. But if you see lights and sirens, even the Ministry of Transportation, MTO enforcement, have the authority to pull you over. So if you see lights, pull over.
And as do railway police.
Yes.
Or CN and CP police. So
Absolutely.
anything within, I believe it's 500 meters of a railway crossing, which includes speed enforcement as well, they have the authority to pull you over.
In addition to that, anything in relation to their property. So if there's a rail line there, even if it's not a crossing, I believe that still extends. So it could be anywhere in Canada and even the United States in some situations because they're traveling cross-border.
That's
their
right.
property extends. Very cool. I'm fascinated by trains. I don't want to be a conductor, but I am fascinated by the whole concept. Just mammoth vehicles that take forever to stop, which gives us an opportunity to touch on rail safety. They don't swerve to avoid, neither do our streetcars. Be very careful when crossing railway crossings, whether you're doing it as a pedestrian, cyclist, or motor vehicle. I see on a regular basis people who are choosing to drive through the intersection or a railway crossing when the arms are up, but the lights are still flashing. That is crazy.
Yeah.
Because you don't know if there's another train coming, and that arm could start coming down again, or it could be malfunctioning. If the lights are on, you should be stopped. And I annoy people because I wait until the lights stop flashing. And then I actually listen for the train. I roll down the window a little bit. I listen to see if there's another train because I've heard about all the stories, and I've had the good fortune of speaking with rail safety professionals. So I'm mildly paranoid. But that's one of the reasons that the door is opened on a bus when they go through, is to see if they can hear a train coming.
Yeah.
Because they have longer view. Anyway, rail safety, it's a real thing. We'll get into more stuff. We met recently someone from CP Police. I have some friends who actually are uniformed officers with CP, and I'm told we're going to be able to have them on the podcast. So I look forward to a podcast in the near future to talk about rail safety.
Yeah, and just as a side note to that safety as well, people do cross onto rail property and walk the line, which is obviously a danger in itself. So, but a lot of that comes with people wearing their earbuds and not being able to hear the train. So just because it's a big train coming at you, if it's coming from behind, you may not hear it or feel it on the rail line. So never a good idea to walk on the tracks, never mind wear your earbuds. So.
And you can be charged. You're not allowed to be on that property.
Yep.
We had some tragedies where people have crossed the tracks. It's a shortcut for people. Very dangerous. Now, what lights do motorcycles need to be on the road? What lights do a motorcycle need to be on the road? Do you mean like if you're converting a vehicle to be street legal, or if you have it broken? Like, what context is this? Because they've got to have a headlight, they've got to have a tail light, they've got to have signals. If they don't have signals, you've got to use your hand signals. And if you don't have light bulb what do you call it? Lights. If you don't have signal lights, you can't ride at night because you can't see hand signals at night. So you would be limiting. But if you're talking about converting a vehicle, that's a different story, because I don't know if you can convert an off-road vehicle legally and lawfully to on-road status.
I'm just going to step away for 2 seconds. I will be right back.
You got to do. I'll mute that microphone. And are law enforcement vehicles also governed? You mean like limited as to maximum speed? Law enforcement vehicles, well, we're allowed to speed, so governing them would be silly, but we are monitored. We're GPS tracked. So everything we do, if we turn on our lights, dispatch sees it. If we travel at speed above the speed limit, we're going to be notifying dispatch that we're doing that, and everything's recorded. So governed, no. Monitored, yes. And I see Akila does some astrophotography. I'm a photographer. I'm interested in that kind of stuff. I saw some beautiful things on TikTok of a tracking telescope. Very cool. See another telescope I saw. If you've got questions, we have answers. This is Ask a Traffic Cop. My name is Sean. I'm a cop who talks about traffic, and that's what we're going to do here. What do we have here? Do you mean CO is Calgary Police? I don't know what Waleed is talking about. Why do lorries drive too fast on the 401? Wow. Well, lorries would suggest you're a Brit or someone from the UK area, and because we don't call them lorries here, but trucks drive too fast on the 401. Everything drives too fast on the 401, like everything. What drives me bananas is speeders, people who choose to make the roads less safe by speeding. Okay. Is it illegal to drive with one headlight broken? If you are in a motor vehicle, a car, not a motor. So motorcycles are exempt, obviously, from having multiple headlights because many of them only have one. If you are driving a truck or a car, you must have two headlights. It is a charge under the HTA for improper headlights if you're only operating with one headlight. You only need one taillight, mind you, that functions. So, if one brake light or one or the one above your not license plate, but rear view, in the rear window, if it doesn't work, that's okay. But you have to have at least one, and I wouldn't want just one, because if that fails, you are invisible. Very bad. Although invisibility is cool, I'd rather as a cloak in a movie than in my car. Good morning, Big Jeff Fresh, who's coming in by YouTube. Oh, nice to see you. Let's see here. Are points given on tickets to owner versus driver? Context is required here because if you get a red light ticket or a automated speed enforcement camera ticket, that is going to be no points, but the ticket is issued to the owner. If you are driving and you are pulled over by police and we issue you a ticket, it's being issued to the driver. And if demerit points are affiliated to that charge, then the driver would be charged and the points or convicted and the points would be applied. Points aren't, to the best of my knowledge, applied to companies because when you talk about commercial motor vehicles, it's a CVOR certificate that gets impacted, and that likely has more impact. Will anything get done if I report an unlicensed driver? You can make a report. It does assist. It does go and get filed. Very often it will result in a letter being issued to the registered owner saying, hey, we're aware of the fact that this is we've had reports that the vehicle is being operated by an unlicensed driver. Can we lay charges based on that? It would require us to have the photo evidence or we have to know time, date, location, and have a complainant and be able to truly be able to identify that that's happening. Generally speaking, that's something that would require a police officer to pull over and stop them. Can I call the police on a police officer? Yes, we have sergeants that you can report police to. If there's a criminal activity or criminal act being undertaken by a police officer, certainly you can call police. But it really depends on what you're talking about. If you're saying they're coming to arrest me, I don't want to be arrested, I'm calling police, that's just silly. If they're lawfully executing their duties, calling the police on the police isn't appropriate. If they're actually breaking the law, that's different. And there's also a civilian oversight office. At the end of the day, the OIPRD is an option, but contacting the police on the police if you've got a complaint is an option. Moving along, what is this? Why do this during work hours and not when off duty? Mike wants to know. Mike Wiener. Well, this is actually my job. I'm a media relations and social media officer. I'm assigned to the Traffic Safety Programs Office, and hosting this show is part of what I do every day, along with creating other content. But I'm not on the road. This is my function. This is what I do. Now, it happens to be that I'm injured and can't go on the road, but if I wasn't here, somebody else, even if they were able-bodied and could go out, would ultimately be doing this job. My partner, who's off the mic right now but will be coming back shortly, is a sergeant in the office, and She's a media relations officer, just like I am. We have another sergeant on this floor, media relations officer. We speak to the media and so on. I educate people about traffic safety and traffic law and whatnot, but that's part of what I do. You know what? The chief shows up on our show on occasion. So why am I not doing it off duty? Because I don't work off duty, at least not often. I often do respond to questions because social media is in the palm of my hand and it's easy for me to respond. And I like answering questions, so I do it when I have free time. But working off duty, this is work. This is not play. Although sometimes it's fun. Anyway. Somebody wants to know about dogs. Luna wants to know about pit bulls. I do not know the laws surrounding pit bulls. I believe there is a ban, but I don't know for certain. That would be an animal services kind of question. Have you worked for other departments? I have only worked, well, I've worked for different units within the Toronto Police. I've been a court officer, an auxiliary officer. I've worked at different divisions as a police officer. I worked at 12 Division before coming to Traffic Services. Within Traffic Services, I've worked in the Criminal Investigation Bureau, the Divisional Response for Collision Investigation. I've worked in the Motor Squad. I've done a bunch of different things within. So I've done different jobs, but this is the most amazing career in that you can have many different responsibilities and jobs all under the umbrella of one career. Many jobs, one career. That's like a slogan they use for selling the job. If you're interested in becoming a Toronto police officer or a police officer within any service, you should know that we're all pretty much hiring. It's one of those things we do. We have to hire new people on a regular basis. The Toronto Police is hiring right now for, I believe, for multiple positions from dispatcher to police constable. If you're interested, check it out, www.tps.ca/careers for everything you ever wanted to know and more. From job salaries, benefits, requirements, you got questions, we got answers, and they exist on the internet. Google also knows stuff. What should I do if I get involved in what I should do if involved in a collision? Well, you have obligations. First of all, you have to exchange information with the other parties, including witnesses. If they ask you for information, you're obligated to exchange. And you want the information from a witness, and you want to give them yours, because that's how that works. Additionally, if anyone's injured, you want to check on to make sure that everyone's okay. That's a responsibility. If you were to leave the scene without doing either one of those, charges would be coming your way, because I would assume that the good people who witnessed it would record or report you for leaving the scene of collision, which is, of course, a charge under the HTA. Additionally, you in the event of an injury or a value of damage over $2,000 amongst all involved parties, well, then you're obligated to report that to the police forthwith. So you need to call police. You might be referred to a collision reporting center, at which point you need to attend to do that. If you are, depending on the type of collision or what's involved, like if someone's transported by ambulance to hospital, if there's issues with some criminal offense, like someone's impaired, if someone doesn't, not criminal, but if someone doesn't have insurance or can't prove it, police need to attend the scene and complete a report there. It's a complicated answer. If you go to tps.ca, there is a link for what to do when I'm in a collision, and all of the information I just went over is right there. What is this? Favorite recent policing memory? I've got to say that my involvement with the Invictus Games is the highlight of my entire career. I mean, I've got lots of little ones, but that one is a huge thing that sticks out of my mind. Truly an honor to have served and dealt with real heroes. I've got a lot of not so favorite memories. Unfortunately, we've seen a lot of loss of life recently in the province and in Canada with police officers, and it's heartbreaking. But the good stuff is there, and it doesn't take away from the good. Opinions on modified vehicles. Well, my opinion is that if they're modified legally, they can be amazing. And if they're modified illegally, if they're modified illegally, then I will charge them or take them off the road. The fact is that modifications that are legal pose no threat or harm to anyone, and that's why they exist, why regulations exist. So modify your car within the law, and there's no problem. But when you're disruptive with loud exhausts or dangerous modifications that make your vehicle unsafe to be on the road, just know that we plan to take you off the road. So check with a trusted mechanic. Check with the police if you have questions about things that you want to do before you do it. I got pulled over by police. They searched me and never found anything. Then they brought me to the station. Okay, what is this regarding? De Niro wants to know all this stuff. I don't know what they were doing when you were being investigated. So I believe that what you're saying is accurate. I'm sure there was some articulable cause, some reason they pulled you over and investigated you and believed that you had reason to do all the things they did. I'm not defending them. I'm just assuming that they would do that lawfully. If it was not lawful, you should report them because there are processes to defend. If you've been mistreated, then report them for sure. Purelator courier parking in fire route for 2 minutes. What is the question? Are you allowed? No, you can't park in no parking, no stopping fire routes. You'll get ticketed. Some people don't care, but it's still something that you should not be doing because fire routes are there for a reason. So are no stopping routes. And there are places for couriers to stop and park legally when on delivery. Fire routes isn't one of them. But people do silly things. Okay, Mikey wants to know about civilians being killed by cops. I don't have stats for all of Canada, but I would imagine it's very low. We don't just walk around hurting people. We arrest people, and sometimes things go badly. Usually it's based on something happening that escalates the situation. But I can't speak for all the events because I'm not aware of all the events. Oh, sorry. Waleed wants to know, did I mean CP police like Calgary police? No, Canadian Pacific Police. That's the railway police. They have status as police throughout Canada and the United States in relation to their train lines, their railway lines. But it's a good question. I didn't understand the context when you first asked it. Can police confiscate a radar detector? Yes, we can. In Ontario, we have full search and seizure authority. We can search their vehicle, the persons within your vehicle. We can seize the equipment of radar detector or jammer or laser detector based on finding it, and we can disassemble your car to find it. So we have that authority under the Highway Traffic Act. You're not allowed to purchase, sell, transport, possess, or use. It's a lot of no's. A device that interferes with the measurement of speed, interferes with our ability to keep people safe. And I do not understand, and it really bugs me that anyone, anywhere, allows these things to be installed because all they do is allow someone utilizing them to avoid detection until they're detected. But they essentially drive like idiots until their sensor goes off, and then they drive like law-abiding citizens temporarily to avoid detection, and then continue to drive like idiots. And you got to know that speed is a law that's important because we know that increased speed increases risk of serious injury and death. So obviously it's not good. But anyway. Waleed wants to know what happens if you can't identify a suspect. I don't know what we're talking about at that moment. I don't know what your question was mentioning or referring to. We got questions about rights to search the car when we have legal authority, and there are many different. So the question was, when does a cop have right to search a vehicle? It's based on legal authority. So if it's search incident to arrest, if it's based on something being seen that gives rise to further search, if there's an authority based in an act like the Highway Traffic Act. So if you have the authority, we can search. Now there's also the opportunity if we say, can we search your car? We can get a consent search. That's a different story. If you give consent when there's nothing else giving us lawful authority, we can search with your consent. And if you don't give consent, we don't search. We also do things when we're towing a car. We'll do or impounding a vehicle. We'll do an inventory search to ensure that there's no valuables there, and it's to protect the person whose vehicle is being impounded. Like if you're being arrested and we're going to impound your vehicle, we're going to make sure that the bars of gold in the back seat are accounted for. Laws for tinted windows. Thank you to the safe driver who's watching and asking this question on behalf of all those who want to know the answer. The inside joke is that this is possibly the most commonly asked question on the show. And safe driver, if you don't know who he is, he's a former judge on Canada's Worst Driver. He is I call him the master driver instructor because he actually teaches driving instructors to be driving instructors. At least that was what he did for a very long time. And he is a writer, a blogger, a TikToker, and podcaster. So a man of many talents. If you don't already follow him, please do. He's a great guy. And the deal with this answer to the question that took me a long time to get to is that tinted windows have laws. There are rules surrounding them. You can have no more than 30% light blockage on the windows left and right of the driver, and you can have nothing on the front windshield unless your vehicle is manufactured before 2017, at which point you can have a 3-inch tin strip on the front window that starts from the top of the windshield. It goes to the PS1 line, or 3 inches, whatever happens first. People say, well, why is that allowed in old vehicles and not new ones? Well, I guess they grandfathered the ones that were manufactured before the law came in, and then everything new can't have it. Now, that is to get a safety. And if you have, I should also mention that the windows to the back of the vehicle can be as dark as you want. In fact, you don't need windows there. They can be metal, like you look at a panel van. You don't have to have windows there. But in terms of safety, if you have more than 30% light blockage, we can actually take your license plates. We can deem your vehicle to be unsafe for the road, and at that point, you'll be reapplying for license plates after you get a new safety certificate. Not a good idea. Is that happening every day? No. Should it happen every day? Absolutely. Now, absolutely, we should catch you and take your license plates for violating safety regulations. That's what I'm talking about. Now, if you talk about tinted window laws that police more often will lay, is going to be a charge called obscure interior of motor vehicle with color or reflective tint. So essentially, anything you put on the windows that prevents us or the public, the police or the public, from seeing in and identifying a driver, seeing if you're wearing a seatbelt, seeing if you're using a phone, see if you're picking your nose, whatever the case is, we have to be able to see in. So reflective tint, no, and tinted windows that are dark, even if it's legal, even if it's under 30%, but because of the atmospheric conditions, otherwise known as night, if we can't see and identify you, that's a ticket, $110 under the HDA. And thank you, good sir, for asking that question. I do appreciate it. Okay. Can the back windshield be completely covered? Yes, it can, as long as you have two mirrors, or the mirrors on the side of the vehicle available for a clear view of the rear. So single mirror in the center is a great thing to have, but it's not absolutely necessary. You got to have other mirrors. Somebody wants to know about a parade in North Carolina. I don't know anything about a parade in North Carolina because I'm not in North Carolina, and I have not watched the news in 48 hours. I cannot make that horrible notification turn off. I really want to, but apparently I can't. So I apologize for my system notifications. It's a PC that is remotely configured by the IT gods, and as a result, I can't make that sound turn off, and it bothers me to no end. Do I sound frustrated? Because I'm frustrated. Okay. Can you smoke a blunt while driving? For those who don't know what a blunt is, he's talking about drugs, marijuana, which is legal, but not to be consumed within a motor vehicle. It's against the law to smoke in a motor vehicle. Certainly not allowed to be smoking while driving. It's impaired driving, and you can be charged for not only smoking it, even if you were on private property, even if you had no intention to drive. Smoking it inside of a motor vehicle is illegal. And additionally, if you were driving whilst consuming marijuana or alcohol, because you can't do either, yeah, you can be charged. Whether you get impaired driving charges depends on your level of whether or not you're impaired. That's there's two separate things. Just consuming it against the law, having it unsealed and available against the law, but being impaired is also separate and against the law. What is this? Why is it required to have a front plate in Ontario? Well, because they said so. I mean, that's really what it is. The law says you have to, and it doesn't matter why, because you have to. And if you break the law, we give you a ticket, even if you don't agree with the why. So the why is irrelevant. The law says you must. But since I happen to have a little bit of information, I can share with you one of the reasons. See, the premier, when he came into the office, said, I want to save money. You may have noticed we got rid of stickers. He also wanted to get rid of license plates because, that's a 50% savings. Manufacture one plate instead of two. Sounds like a great idea. So he went to some trusted advisors. We call them the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police. And I believe that they turned around and said it's safer. And for public safety, we should keep it. And one of those reasons is to be able to identify a motor vehicle from the front and the back. Just makes sense. So there's the Coles notes. Make a police siren sound. I don't know if you wanted me to make a wee-woo sound, but that would be the police siren sound. Oh, now all the emails are going to come in. Thanks. Okay. Are people in the back required to wear seatbelts? Yes, all occupants of a motor vehicle that is outfitted with seatbelts must wear seatbelts, and you can only carry as many people as you have seatbelts for them. Used to be that, unless you have a vehicle that was manufactured before seatbelt laws were put into place, at which point no seatbelts were made, no seatbelts were ever installed. That's covered under a grandfather clause of not requiring seatbelts. But modern vehicle, post, was it 1974 or something? I don't even remember. But if it's supposed to have seatbelts, you got to wear it. If you don't, you get a ticket if you're over 16. The driver gets a ticket if you're under 16. IT here. Oh, we have technical support. Thank you, Daniel. Windows button, notifications, and action. Well, I got news for you. I can't change it. I've changed it. I put it down to 0. It still makes noise. If you DM me, I will certainly ask you for help. But my understanding is I can't change these settings because they're locked out based on master control. What do you need to become a police officer? Well, Zappy Kid, the answer is check out tps.ca/careers for the full details, because there's vision requirements and physical requirements and education requirements. The Coles notes, grade 12 education, 20/40 uncorrected binocular vision. You need to have the ability to pass the physical testing and the academic testing, and you have to be determined to be fit for the role as police officer by a doctor, both psychologically and physically. What else? I'm being told to hydrate. I wish I had water. I forgot to fill my burrito last night, so I'm drinking some cold coffee. Mind you, I do have some cold soda, but I don't know if I want to have soda right now. Do I want a Diet Pepsi? I don't know. I have Diet Pepsi. I put them in the fridge. They might be cold enough to actually consume now, because I don't like warm pop. Some people I know only drink warm pop. Do you drink warm pop or do you drink cold pop? This is a serious question. And so serious a question, hang on a second, I'm going to put a poll up. Let's see here. Can I do this? Yes, I can do this. I want to edit it. We're doing this. This is serious stuff. The question is, what do you prefer? I don't think I've done one of these in months. So I'm just having fun with the warm pop or cold pop. Cold pop. I'm assuming, and I could be wrong. We'll let this go. Okay. Start. Oh, come on. Really? It says I got to take this question down first. Text poll. Start. Okay. What do you prefer? Let's see if you can. Let's hit the buttons, make it happen, and I'll tell you a couple things while we're doing that. And by the way, please and thank you. I appreciate it. What I would like to talk about very briefly while you're doing this poll business is that this is Ask a Traffic Cop, and my name is Sean Shapiro. I'm a police officer. I work at Traffic Services. Traffic Services is a citywide unit of the Toronto Police Service, which means we respond to calls anywhere in Toronto and sometimes outside if we're assisting other services, but generally speaking, within the confines of the city. And we investigate all motor vehicle collisions. Actually, we investigate railway events where a person is struck or a vehicle is struck. We will get involved with collisions or situations on the water dealing with boating. It's a collision. We get involved with that stuff. It's very interesting. Now, in addition to investigating collisions and enforcing the Highway Traffic Act, which is any offense under that act, we have officers that specialize in the motorcycle unit, for instance, that will do dignitary escorts and special events that only can be done by way of motorcycle. We also have a commercial motor vehicle unit that enforces laws specific to those big old trucks, because we want to make sure truck safety and large vehicle safety is a thing. So whether it be trucks, trailers, combinations thereof, they are the specialists that go there. And they also liaise with the MTO and get involved with big things and blitzes and enforcement of all sorts of commercial motor vehicle stuff and things. And they do great work, and they are specialists in their field, which is very cool. What else do we do here? We have other stuff. We have a collision reconstruction unit, which is actually the folks who create these enormous, like we're talking about when there's a fatality or a serious collision that's life-altering, they may be called in or they would be called in to do major reporting, because there's going to be a trial, there's going to be court stuff, and they create like 100-page reports based on the information that's gathered. And technology and gizmos and gadgets are so cool there. We have a number of them that are pilots for drones. They go out and they survey the area. They record everything. They create computer models. They do some really serious and very time-consuming work. Because my understanding is some of these reports could take 6 months to a year. Not something I'm looking to do. Just saying. I credit them. They do amazing work. We also have a breath unit, and we have something called the drug recognition. They're sort of in the same area. They deal with the impaired drivers. We have two officers that run the units. They deal with drug recognition experts. They deal with the breath technicians. Those are the people who are actually doing the major tests and determining whether or not someone's going to be charged with 80 overcharges or being under the influence of drugs. And they can even, just for the drug recognition experts, they can even figure out what class of drug, what family of drug someone is under the influence of based on the tests that they perform. And we're not talking about like blood tests. They actually have you do a bunch of physical testing, very similar to what is done with our roadside sobriety testing, but just that much more involved. Angel, what do we have here? Big Jeff Fresh says that he can drink warm pop, but cold pop just tastes better. Yeah, I can't drink warm pop. Let's see. Is that poll? It's still in progress. If you haven't voted already, please go into the text poll. And I apologize to everyone who's everywhere other than TikTok, but TikTok's the only place you can do this particular poll. I don't know if this functionality even exists on Instagram, but for those on TikTok, please do it. Also, please tap the screen on whatever platform, share the live. Please let everyone else know, and everyone includes like the planet, that we do this because we really are trying to help answer questions and dispel rumors because we want people to know what the laws are and understand them so they don't end up getting tickets that they didn't need. Because very often people do things that they think is legal, turns out not to be legal. So if you've got questions, we've got answers. Throw the question into the Q&A after you put the vote if you're on TikTok. Q&A is open on all the platforms. We're also broadcasting on YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn. We're on Facebook. Twitter doesn't let us get questions from you, but other things do work. We also have something called Volley. If you go into my link tree, which is, of course, available on the bio of all of our platforms, you can go in and see. Let me refresh here because I see Jace has some questions in Volley. You're able with Volley to send me video, voice, or text. So if you want to send messages in our group, just go to the link tree, click on the button that says Ask Me a Question on Volley, and you can get in and ask us questions. Send me videos and all that sort of stuff. So let's see, what do we got here? Jay says, good morning, Mr. Shapiro. How are you this fine morning? I'm doing well, thank you. And he also sends messages to the sergeant. Let's see here. Michael says, I wait for lights to turn off, especially on multiple track crossing. I had a go train one direction. Gates were halfway down. Then it came down again. It was halfway up, then came down again for the other. Those trains, there's multiple tracks, and people don't realize that they are so close together. It's just so dangerous. And yeah, I've seen some horrific video. The answer to the poll. 91.46% drink cold pop. That means that only 8.5% roughly of you are not okay. I don't know how you do it. And I'm related to people who drink warm pop, so I'm just making fun. But I don't know how you do it. So you obviously have some special skills and abilities that the rest of us don't have. So thank you for participating. That was cool. I like to do those kind of things. If you have a poll that you think we should run, make a suggestion. I can run another poll. I think it's a neat feature. Something else I want to do that I've been talking about doing for about a month and have not done anything about is for those especially who join us on a regular basis, what is your favorite question? If it's a really great question, let me know, because if you think it's great, I'm going to do a best of show, and I want to include the questions that you think are the best. So it's going to be maybe weekly or monthly best of questions based on you, what you think is the best, asked and answered, and so on. Okay. We have Michael who says, this live is a great service, not a waste of money. Normal people prefer learning HDA this way, not by getting tickets. I couldn't agree with you more. And apparently close to 600,000 people agree with you. Let's see here. Why is it refreshing this way? Chase has a voice message. Chase is possibly the most regularly guesting. Are you guesting when you're on this format? Okay, let's play it for everyone to hear.
If someone surrenders a fake insurance card, is there a way you can just check in your system to see if it's real? I'm assuming you guys don't call the insurance company every time to check if it's real.
So that's a phenomenal question, as per usual, Chase. Chase sends. My wife and I were discussing the fact that last night we were discussing the fact that Chase always has great questions, and where does he come up with these? He's just talented. So the answer is there is a system in place that does regular checks. Now, is that current enough for me to lay charges? I don't believe so. What I do is I will call the company and before I lay the charge. Just that's my preference. I have 3 years to lay a charge for no insurance. So if I cannot confirm 100% to myself that I don't, or if I don't, how do I rephrase this? If I don't believe that you have insurance, if I am confident that you don't have insurance, I'll lay the charge. But I will usually, if at all possible, confirm with the insurance company. Now, the other system, which is the Ministry of Transportation, they keep records. It could have changed. So I can lay the charge and you can prove otherwise. Then you prove otherwise. And if you can't, it's your responsibility to prove that you have insurance. And here's a funny thing about insurance companies. They record everything. So if you're claiming that you have insurance and you don't, you're done. You're done. There's no way you're going to prove otherwise. You're the people who are getting caught or getting pulled over are hoping that the officer doesn't check. But you know what? I check all of them. Every stop I do, I'm checking because I'm already checking somewhere. And if I think it's wonky, I'm doing the further checks. And if I can lay the charge because you're putting lives at risk and you're making sure that people are not covered when you get into a collision with them, oh yeah, I'm going to lay that charge. No hesitation. Oh, by the way, what is the fine for drive no insurance? Drive automobile no insurance? We're talking $5,000 to $25,000 on the first conviction and up to 6 months in jail. Either or. They can do 6 months in jail and no fine. They can do 6 months in jail and a fine. Yeah, bad for you. But some people think they can roll. You know what? Until I get caught, it's cheaper. Don't be a weenie. People who drive without insurance. I think there's a caveat that I can call people who drive without insurance weenies. I know it might be offensive to weenies. Okay. What is this? Can I have underglow on my car in Ontario? The answer is, it's not specifically outlined. The deal is really that you can have lights that are not visible to the sides or front or back, because if you're projecting anything other than white or yellow to the front, it's against the law. If you're projecting anything other than red or amber to the rear, it's against the law. So if you got purple underglow and you're projecting it out, you're projecting it in all directions if it's not installed properly. However, if the bulbs are effectively invisible because they are tucked neatly underneath the car and you're only seeing the light reflecting off the ground, I have no issue with that. Other officers might, and you might have to have that argument in court. Oh, we're boiling water. Can you hear the kettle? I hear the kettle. Chase says, thanks, Sean. Too many questions in my queue for you. Well, it's good that you're doing the research and you're preparing, so you're always providing good content. Are people allowed to add a turbo to the car? I am not aware of any law that would prevent you from adding a turbo, since you can buy a car already outfitted with a turbo. Obviously, that turbo would have to conform to the rules and regulations around emissions. If it was something that dumped, the whole concept of a turbo is to recycle the fumes and gases. So, I would say that there's nothing there that I'm aware of that would stop it. Make the RDS siren sound. Is that the button here? Is that what the RDS? I don't know what the RDS siren is. That's just the siren sound that I have sampled. Okay. Do you drink alcohol? Very, very rarely. I'm not an alcohol person. I drink diet soda. Could passengers get charged if a driver is high? No, the driver is impaired, not the passenger. However, if the passenger is consuming marijuana while the driver is driving, then yes, they could be charged. What would happen if expired plate entering 407? Well, you have an expired plate. I don't know if you can be charged for 407 related charges in addition to having an expired plate, because that having an invalid plate is a $110 fine on its own. They still know who you are, so you still get billed. But I don't know about expired plates in the 407. It's a specific charge. How can I drive my parents' car with a G2 / or in brackets insurance? So if you're, as a G2 driver, you're eligible from a policing perspective to drive any motor vehicle that you are qualified to operate. So anything that a G-class license is required for. In terms of insurance, your insurance company, although it is a private company, may make stipulations or add stipulations to your contract, your parents' contract in this case, saying that if someone lives with you, they have to be named on the policy or they can deny a claim. That's not making it illegal for you to drive. It just means if you crash the car, they're not going to replace it. They're not going to repair it because you're not. So more often than not, what they ask you to do is be added on the insurance policy as an occasional driver. Okay. Well, I missed a whole bunch of stuff here. MSC 92 says, sometimes traffic lights don't change when people is up and happens multiple times. Use the Q&A functionality, please, so I can actually see it because I just happened to scroll to the bottom of the chat to see that question on Instagram. The answer is that, yeah, you're right. Sometimes they don't work properly. Repositioning your vehicle is usually the best way to go. And if you're on a motorcycle, that's even worse or more difficult. The answer being reposition vehicle. In some cases, I see people put the car in park, lock the doors, go up to the button, press it, and activate the change. If it really doesn't work and there's no crosswalk button to activate, making a legal right turn at the intersection, followed by either a legal U-turn where it's safe and permissible, or making a change by taking a number of other streets, using a parking lot, what have you, to avoid it. Okay. If a passenger doesn't have a seatbelt on, charge? Well, yes, there would be because it's required by law. Now, who gets the charge depends on the age of the person not wearing the seatbelt. If the person is 16 or older, they get their own ticket. If they are under the age of 16, the driver is responsible for ensuring that children are buckled safely and appropriately, and in the appropriate type of restraint. If it was a toddler or an infant not wearing a seatbelt, well, they don't wear seatbelts. They wear, child restraints. Or they're strapped into child restraints like buckets or what have you, based on the appropriate type of vehicle and child. Yeah, so that would be a driver charge because they're under 16. A good idea. Let's see here. Somebody said something about why. What is this question? I saw something scroll by about not answering a question. So I'm curious what. Oh, it's actually in the question. So, but I'll address it here. Why do cops use sirens to blow red lights? No. Because it's required under the HTA. We are not required to use our lights and sirens at all times while traveling to an emergency or to a call or doing anything urgent. So as long as we're in a lawful execution of our duties and we're going somewhere that needs us to get there urgently, we can use our lights and sirens to proceed through a red signal. We actually have to, not just can. We have to use lights and sirens if we are going through a signalized intersection that's displaying a red signal to us. We also have to come to a complete stop and ensure it's safe to do so. So that's why we activate the lights and sirens, because that's required, and then we can turn them off again once we get to the other side. And here's the part that really bothers people. It's usually safer for us to travel to a call with the lights and sirens off. Now, there's other reasons to do it, like if there's an alarm call at a house, we don't want to alert the bad guy inside that we're coming so they run away. We want to catch them in the process. So we turn off our lights and sirens for that reason. But very often, just the simple fact that we activate lights and sirens causes drivers to do the wild and craziest thing. Wildest and craziest? Yeah, they do dangerous things. They stop right in front of us. They pull the wrong direction. They are dangerous. And they usually think we're trying to pull them over because they're doing something wrong. But very often we just want to get past them and out of the way. But the message, the broken telephone is wild. So we go without lights and sirens. It's safer. And then when we have to get somewhere for time, then we activate the system. But what are the rules around earphones? Well, in specifically Ontario, it's not illegal to wear headphones. In some provinces, you can cover one ear but not the other. And is it safe? You know what? You don't have to be someone with hearing to drive. People who are in the deaf community can drive, and they do a great job at it. Is it safer if you have the option? I certainly rely on my hearing to avoid collisions, to hear the screeching tires of a vehicle that's losing control approaching. I like that early warning system. Okay. What is this? Cops never come to a complete stop, though, through lights. Well, that's not accurate either, because I always come to a complete stop because that's what a stop is. When someone's rushing to someone dying, a child not breathing, I understand why they don't come to a complete stop, and I would hope you'd understand that too. But they are responsible for anything that happens. If they happen to roll through it, but in their mind they did, they could be charged for it. technically they can receive well, depending on how many times it's happened, we lose 4 hours pay for not coming to a stop at a stop sign or not coming to a stop at a red light when we're going through. And if we were investigated, we would lose it. And if I was going to go save a baby or anyone for that matter, I'd happily lose it. If I gapped for a second and I rolled instead of a complete stop and they wanted to ding me 4 hours for the first time, 8 hours for the second, 16 hours for the third, it escalates. We are held accountable for everything. And guess what? We have GPS in our car. We have G sensors in our car. Everything is monitored and recorded. It's what it is. So, when people ask these questions, it's because they're trying to say we're doing something wrong. Sometimes mistakes are made. We're human, but we're doing it for the right reasons. And when we're not doing it for the right reasons, we're held accountable for those decisions. There are people who do bad things, whether they wear a uniform or not. I don't defend them. What is this? Using double right turn lane on red ? Yes. You want an explanation? The question is, and I grew up thinking that this was not legal. I thought you could only make a right turn on a red from the curb lane. I was incorrect, and I learned about it when I became a police officer. Imagine getting training on stuff, learning stuff. I now know stuff. You can make a right turn from either of the two lanes that are right turn lanes on a red light. But you must go to the appropriate lane when you make the turn. So when you make a right turn from the curb lane, you must go to the curb lane. When you make a right turn from the next one over, you must go to the appropriate lane on the turn. Otherwise, it's an improper turn, and you can be charged under the HTA. Cool things you learned on the show. My name is Sean Shapiro. I'm a police constable with the Toronto Police Service. I go live on social media to answer your traffic and police questions. We do it Monday to Friday from 10 to 11, and 11 is 9 minutes away. So we're going to get some more questions in, but I want to give you reasonable expectations, although I might go 5 or 10 minutes extra. Who knows? We'll see how it goes. I finished a course this morning before, so I feel like I have all this extra spare time. How much do Canadian police make? I never remember these numbers because money doesn't matter to me. I mean, I pay my bills. I do need money, but in terms of of the money, it's not the reason I do the job. But let's go. You can find this information, by the way, at www.tps.ca/careers. And here we go. I'm going to pull up the information. And what are your guesses? Do you have any guesses as to what police officers make? Throw them in there. Throw them in the chat. But I'll give you the answer in just a second. And that is when you're being trained, a cadet in training makes $67,680 Canadian. Once you've completed your training, you graduate, you're a fourth-class constable, you got your badge and your gun, you go off to start learning for 10 weeks with a coach officer. That's really when the real question begins, or the real training begins, because very often you hear this, forget everything you learned in the college. This is where it's not untrue. You need to know everything in the college, but you also have a whole different level of experiences when you start doing the job. So when you get on the road for your first day, you start at the salary of $75,218. Every year, roughly after that, you go up. The next pay increase is $85,971. The next year, $96,716, and finally, you top out at $107,456. At least based on our current contract. Every police service will be slightly different. That's the Toronto Police Service. How long will you be notified your license is suspended? So it depends on how it is. It's deemed to have been, you are deemed to have been served after 15 days, if memory serves me correctly, which means if court determines that you're suspended, whether you get it in the mail or not, you are suspended after 15 days from the date of the suspension, which means if I pull you over as a police officer and you're suspended, but it had only had 5 days since the suspension was in effect, I wouldn't charge you for driving while suspended. I would, at that point, notify you, document the notification, and at that point, you can no longer drive. You are now suspended, and you were suspended already, but you've now been notified. Thus, you would be charged if you drove after that point. But if you had been driving for 2 weeks, even though because you didn't just check your mail, I would charge you for driving suspended. There you go. On speaker while holding the phone versus phone, there's no difference. So on the speakerphone while holding a phone, effectively doing this, one of my favorite things to see. Hi, I'm on speakerphone, hands-free. Yeah, I'm totally legal. No, not legal. This is using your phone. You cannot hold your phone. And if you do, you get a charge. It's the same as holding it to your ear. It's identical. $615, 3 demerit points, and a 3-day suspension on conviction. My apologies. What do I think about Windsor Police? I have a buddy of mine who works for Windsor Police. He's a nice guy. I have no other exposure to Windsor Police. That's not true. I had a couple of instructors from Windsor Police, but I have no other opinion of Windsor Police. What's your opinion of Windsor Police? I don't know. I'm assuming you either love them or hate them, but which I can't decide or can't suggest or estimate or forecast. I don't know. My words aren't working to me. Can police smoke cannabis on the job? Like, can you be a police officer and consume marijuana? It's legal. You can't come to work with cannabis or THC in your system. You can't be under the influence of drugs when you're working, but you're not prohibited from consuming it on your days off. I think we had to be 24 or 30 days without it in our system at one point. I don't know what the current is. The reason I don't know is because I don't care. I don't use that stuff, so I've never. It's not been important enough for me to pay attention to. When I was studying for promotions, I read it, and I promptly forgot about it after I wrote the exam. Let's see here. Am I allowed to warn motorists of an enforcement? Well, it's a moral question, not a legal question. You can do whatever you want when it comes to that, as long as you're not high-beaming people, which is illegal because you're blinding them. But what you are doing by warning people is helping to promote an unsafe place for people that you may love or like or know. When you promote speeding by telling people to slow down temporarily so they don't get caught, well, you're making sure those bad drivers, those traffic violators, they don't get caught. So they stop. They change their behavior temporarily, same as a radar detector, and then they continue to be, wieners afterwards by speeding. I say wieners now because that's the term that I'm using for today to describe people who choose to make other people or put other people's lives at risk and safety at risk because they want to go fast or they're late or some other pathetic excuse for why they speed because they like it. Whatever the case is, if you're breaking the law and making the roads unsafe, you're. Did I say wiener or weenie? I think I said weenie. Maybe weenie's the right way to use. In any case, you can't get charged for warning people, but I don't know how you sleep at night if you do it, because when a child dies, it could be because you prevented someone from losing their license. Yeah. Okay. Why are traffic fines so much steeper in Canada? Magical wants to know. Well, I don't know what you think is cheaper. Every province has a different rate. We actually have the lowest rate in Canada. Ontario has the lowest cost for speeding and most offenses. Like I was talking to friends in Alberta, and they are like $400 for a stop sign. I think we're $110. So everybody else is way more expensive than we are. And some places in the world charge based on what you can afford. So if you make $1 million a year, your ticket is huge. And if you make $100,000 a year, it's less. And if you make $40,000 a year, it's less. And if you're unemployed, it's less. And that may be a great way to do it because it hits people who currently think that they can afford it, they can just do it. Yeah, I don't know what the right way is, but we are way too cheap if you ask me. What's this? Many security companies use two-way radios. Are they allowed to be used while driving? Similarly to CB. CB is a handheld communication device. Walkie-talkies are a handheld communication device. The only way you can use a device like this while operating a motor vehicle is in hands-free mode while not touching. So a push-to-talk that's remotely activated would be okay, a pedal push-to-talk, but you can't use a two-way radio while you're driving. There was a temporary permission, and I'll have to double-check, but I don't believe that is still in effect. It's been a long time as far as I can know. So two-way radio is not something you need to be using while you're driving. Now, there is an exemption for people who have ham radio, amateur radio licenses. They can use them. What do we got here? Free from Chaos says, thank you. I got a lot of questions about that. I don't know. What question was it that I answered that you get a lot of questions about? In any case, what we got here? We talked about the suspension already, so I'll remove the duplicates. Please only ask questions once. Can I practice losing control in a parking lot? That sounds a lot like stunt driving. Intentionally losing control is stunt driving. You'd lose your vehicle for 14 days. You'd lose your license for 30. The goal is to practice not losing control rather than the other way around. Okay, why do cops, we talked about, we already got this one. Just acknowledge that we answered it. Oh, is it legal to use red tuck tape on a taillight? As a temporary fix, I don't have a problem with it. The idea and the reason you use red tape is to prevent white light from shining backwards. Because if you project white light, you're blinding the people behind you. It's illegal, not just because it's bright, but because you're not allowed to project white light to the rear. The only light that can be white on the back of a vehicle is your license plate light, which is actually regulated, must be white. Cannot use any other color. That was one of my favorite things to pull people over for. They'd have blue lights, they have red lights, all these things. It just doesn't allow the plate to be visible properly. Is it legal to pass is it legal to pass solid yellow lines in Canada? I can't give you a Canada-wide option. I can give you an Ontario answer. And the answer is you can cross a yellow line. It's there to caution you. But you're responsible for everything that happens after you cross that line, because it's obviously telling you that yellow being that the traffic on the other side of that line is coming at you, and it's solid to suggest you shouldn't cross it. And if you choose to do it, you're on your own. What do we got here? I'm looking for a zinger because it's 11 o'clock. The show is over, and yet I'm still here talking to you. Zappy Kid wants to know if I've ever broken any bones, like on other people or on myself. I've broken, well, both. But I was in a motorcycle collision and I broke a bunch of stuff. But I've had broken bones as a result of martial arts training. Like I've broken stuff. What is this? What winter tires are you using? Winter ones. I think mine are Hankook. Whether those are good, bad, or otherwise, that's what I had. That's what I got when I bought them. Winter tires are better than not winter tires, in my opinion. Senator says, what do I do if an officer is harassing me for 3 years? You might want to file a complaint, get a lawyer. If you're being harassed and it's truly harassment, then you should likely report that. If your version of harassment is that you're being consistently arrested for doing the wrong thing, if you keep breaking the rules, or that's not harassment, that's them doing their job, and you shouldn't be breaking the law. So it depends. If they're just harassing you for a reason that isn't a justified reason to charge you, then complain, because that's not cool. But if you're a criminal, as I'm not suggesting you are, but I'm saying if you were to have been a criminal and they just kept arresting you for every time you robbed the bank, that's not harassment. That's catching a bad guy. Don't be a criminal. What is this? Scrolling. Akela says, don't have a good day, have a great day. Stay safe, and to our American neighbors, happy Thanksgiving. I didn't even talk about Thanksgiving. I thought about that on the way in. I was going to talk about Thanksgiving. I was going to try and get a turkey to do some, calisthenics behind us, but the turkey I had in mind wasn't available. I'm not going to go. I was going to name the turkey, but I think that could be dangerous for my career. What's the law on light bars? Depending on what you call a light bar, but they're off-road. They're off-road items. They're not focused, directable, at least not to the requirements. They're just not okay. Off-road only. Scrolling for one that I haven't seen here. Can citizen perform citizen's arrest? It's why they call it a citizen's arrest. You need to know what a citizen's arrest is. You need to know what the laws are, what your authorities are, what the conditions of using it are, because you can't just arrest someone because, arrest you. No, it has to be because you have the lawful authority based on the type of charge, the type of offense, that you witnessed it. There's a whole bunch of things. And if you do it wrong or if you don't have the authority, you're going to get sued. And when you get sued, you get unhappy and possibly unemployed, not unemployed, but at least broke, because they're going to sue you for everything you own. If you're lawfully doing it, you probably have training, and training is what you want. But here's the thing. If someone's hurting somebody else, they're beating somebody up, and you citizens arrest them, yeah, first of all, I'd be trying to protect the person, and the less worried about arresting them and more about preventing the person who's beating the other person from killing them. But calling 911 is possibly the first thing you should do, or at least give someone instruction to call 911 while you try and... Anyway, it's a big deal. It is a big deal. Do you know Matt Moyer? He's my professor. He is the acting superintendent of my station. He's not only someone I know, he's my boss. And you can tell him he's a great guy. We like him. He's good. And it's not just because he's my boss. He's a really nice guy. And I know he's a professor. Actually, I spoke to your class or to a number of classes recently. So cool. Tell him I say hello, even though he's like, I could walk. I'm gonna walk up. What's your name? Send me a DM with your name. I'm gonna follow you so you can DM me, because now I'm gonna tell him that you told me that you were checking up on him. Do military members have a higher chance at joining? I don't know, higher or lower. It's definitely a plus. It's great experience. There are people who, first of all, I have a lot of colleagues that have former military experience, so I know that they do get through, even if they used to do military stuff. No, it's a good thing. It's positive. Let's see here. I really got to go, but I really want to answer questions. It's an addiction. I like answering questions. Is ownership in vehicle required, or can it be a copy? So, it can be a copy. It can be what's called a true copy, which is a photocopy of both the front and back of the ownership document. It can be black and white. It can be color. It doesn't matter. But the original is not required. I personally do not leave a copy or the original in the vehicle. What I do is I keep the original or a copy in my pocket, in my wallet. Reason being is I don't want someone to break into my vehicle and find out where I live. I'm strangely not interested in being visited by people who either like or don't like me. Yeah. Call me crazy. What do you do when you're bored? If I'm bored, I fall asleep. I'm so tired. You can ask my kids or my wife. If I'm not moving, I'm sleeping because I'm always running around doing something. I'm very rarely bored. I have a lot of hobbies. I have a lot of stuff that needs to get done and does get done. It's never ending. I'm either answering TikTok or other social media. I'm either on the phone. And when I finally switch it off and become dad again, I'm making dinner or cuddling the kids, watching TV. And if I'm doing nothing, I'm asleep. Because there's always something to be done if I'm conscious. Rules for businesses allowed to put up speed zones. You can put up whatever you want. They're not enforceable on private property. Speed zones, you can't create speed zones. The only thing you could do is trespass someone if you believe that they were speeding. But how would you're going to use laser to establish that? You're basically just going to say, I don't want you on my property. And at that point, you're going to have to. It's messy. It's messy. But speed zones aren't enforceable. The only time that they are, and I will say this, private property, like TTC has speed zones because they have a TTC bylaws, and there's Go Transit stuff. They have speed zones, and they usually use it for enforcing their own employees. Like I was on a TTC property recently. They have photo radar. It applies on their property because they have special privileges. If you're the Costco, you can't put up a speed zone. It just doesn't work. It's not. Now schools could do it because they could prevent you from graduating. They have something that you care about, which would allow you to have it dangled over your head. Like if you don't do this, you're going to get in trouble. We're not going to let you graduate. But Costco, what are they going to do? Cancel your membership? Yeah. Ticket. Someone said ticket. Magical says, do you treat crazy Americans any different who are? I have a lot of friends and family that are Americans. They're not crazy. I don't know what you're talking about. But people who visit, we have a lot of Americans who visit. We have a lot of folks from all around the world who visit Toronto. We're a major city. We're a destination for travel. But I don't know what you're talking about in terms of treating people differently. You know what? Someone who violates the rules gets treated like they violated the rules. Otherwise, everyone's the same. I don't stop or issue tickets to people who don't break the rules. What is this? Boy, this Sunil really wanted to ask this question, so they asked it 600 times. What do we got here? Evan says, a field sobriety test, sorry. If I fail a sobriety test but my blood is clean, is it still on the record? So if you fail a field sobriety test, we'd pull you in to do a proper test. We'd either arrest you for impaired operation. You'd come in and do and read you a breath demand, bring you back to the station to complete a proper breath device reading. If you have nothing there and it was just a poorly performing on a field sobriety test, it happens. We put you in, if we think it's drugs, we'd put you in front of a drug recognition expert. If they determine that you performed well enough that you could move on and you're not under the influence of drugs or alcohol, then you'd be okay to go. Are you required to have a trail pass for ATVs? I don't know. I'd assume so, but that's not my department. That's a Sergeant Campbell who's not in the office at the moment department, and I don't know anything about ATV riding. Anything I've ever done has been on private property. Are you RCMP peace officer or another department? Let me duck out of the way. Toronto Police Service. Actually, it says it in our bio too. Yes, I'm a police officer with the Toronto Police Service. We are a municipal police service in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And it's 9 minutes. I'm going to play a song to say goodbye. It's my favorite song because my friend wrote it and performed it here, and we recorded it, and it's a lot of fun. It's a traffic song, Toronto Police traffic song. See you tomorrow for Friday.
Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely helps the traffic flow. Watch for pedestrians, look out for bikes, and don't drive like a jerk. No one likes. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely is the way to go. Put down your cell phone, nobody needs you to text and drive on the DVP. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Stop at stop signs, look both ways, then go. Seatbelt, save your life indeed. And watch your driving, don't speed. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely is the way to go. Don't drink and drive or smoke some weed, because you might go to jail and not get freed. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely helps the traffic flow.
Nine, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.